Boker Tov, one of the beautiful and rare mitzvot in the Torah is the mitzvah of Pidyon Haben, redemption of the firstborn. A firstborn baby boy born to parents who are not Kohanim or Leviim essentially buy back their child from a Kohen in a ceremony known as the Pidyon Haben. Now we are told in the Gemara, in the Halacha, that this only applies to a firstborn baby born naturally. A baby born through a Caesarean does not have Pidyon Haben. And there are scriptural sources for this, but let's try to understand the rationale behind this. If we think about the birth of a baby, if a person is walking past the labor room, not knowing that this is a room in which women bring babies into the world, hearing all the screams and the shouts, we would think that the person inside is about to die. And in truth, a woman giving birth, at least historically, was close to death. This is the way the human body has been incredibly designed. What looks and sounds like death actually can sometimes be life. A woman who looks and sounds like she is dying, experiencing the pangs of death, is actually bringing life into the world. And in truth, this is a microcosm of the natural history of the world. Often the very same thing that looks like destruction, that looks like ruin, ends up being the very same force that generates life. Let's take Pesach as an example. Egypt is described as the Kur HaBarzel, the iron crucible. Throughout the beginning of the book of Shemot, it's all gloom and darkness. It seems like there was no hope, a nation being persecuted. But from that very same darkness sprouted redemption, leaving Egypt, becoming an Am, becoming a nation, and eventually experiencing the divine revelation at Har Sinai. Last month was Purim. From the clutches of annihilation, we're transferred overnight to have immense political clouds in Persia. And of course, perhaps the greatest example of this concept in Jewish history is the Holocaust. It was easy to write off Jewish continuity in 1945, but astonishingly, just 3 years later, after being exiled for over 2 millennia, we came home to Israel. This is the reality of the world which we live in. A seed is sown in the ground, and in order to sprout, it must first rot. But then miraculously, it grows into a budding tree, a source of life, of new fruit. This is the life cycle of events. Now, why do we do a Pidyon Haben? So the Torah tells us, in fact we read this on first day Chol HaMoed, the end of Parashat Bo, it's to commemorate HaKadosh Baruch Hu's intervention in Egypt, how the Egyptian firstborns were killed, yet the Jewish firstborns were spared. Now we will read in the Haggadah that this event of the Egyptian firstborns being punished and the Jewish firstborns being saved, this was lo alidei malach, lo alidei shaliach, lo alidei saraf. It wasn't through any agent, through any intermediary. It was directly through HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There was a clear manifestation of God's involvement in the 10th plague, the plague through which our redemption began. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself exacted retribution whilst passing over the Jewish firstborns. So this event and the night of Pesach was HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself behind the natural miracle of life. God himself transforming a century of slavery, of servitude, into the beginning of a new nation, Am Yisrael. Now a natural birth through the womb, without human intervention, represents the natural miracle and life cycle of life. The mother was so close to dying, and yet she was spared, and from that near-death experience, more life was created. That's exactly what Egypt's about. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's direct, immediate involvement in transforming darkness into light. Any other form of birth that involves human intervention breaks the natural miracle of birth. Such a child's birth is an expression of nature not working as it was supposed to and human beings saving the day. It doesn't mean that such a birth is in any way less special than natural birth, but it's a different kind of birth. It's one which requires human instrumentality, human involvement, And that's a different time of the year. That's perhaps Shavuot. Shavuot commemorates human development. Pesach is about HaKadosh Baruch Hu behind the miracles, what we call miracles, behind the nature of life, the life cycle, events. And that's what Pidyon Haben reminds us of. It reminds us of Egypt, of the natural miracles of life and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's direct involvement of it. And this is a powerful idea, one we should think about over Pesach. Pesach is HaKadosh Baruch Hu taking darkness, transforming it into light. And that's why Pesach gives us such hope. It reminds us that every generation there are those who try to annihilate us, but as history has proven time and time again, it's from those dark moments in history, from the times when there's gloom, that actually Geulah, redemption, sprouts. And from there comes the beginning of something new. Out of uncertainty, fragility, difficulty, comes redemption and freedom and liberation. Have a wonderful